They say running backs are a dime a dozen. Not this year. We giving love to the running backs all day today. We got Eagles running back rankings. Let's go. Victory Mondays.
All day, baby. You know that.
Let's hunt.
If we don't come together right now on this hollow ground.
Where are you going? I'm going to pick a fight.
Get up there.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained? Is that why you are here?
Let the games begin.
This is where we hold them. This is where we fight. This is where they die.
Money is nice. Championships are better.
Hey, a little switch up. Money's nice, but championships are better. I like it on the back end there. Welcome everybody back for another episode of Victory Mondays. I am the player. I am the host. They call me Moss Money. I got my guy with me, the GM, Ernie B. What's up, bro?
Hey man, we're getting into the weeds here. It's that time of the year, man. Ain't nothing but the weeds. It's a whole lot of dissecting, our surgical time when it comes to the roster.
But the funny thing about the weeds, though, man, you got to be particular. So when you go out there, you got to get down on there, put your get on the ground and dig them out, right? Dig them out, right? And it could be a bitch to get out, but we got to get all this work out in terms of NFL news, breaking down the rosters and getting ready to repeat and defend our Super Bowl champion for this year. Today is running backs. Let's bring up a little Saquon, little Saquon love. Today is running backs and ranking the running backs. I think every time he just broke through the first line, you see an offensive lineman put their hand up somewhere. Yo, I hate this one video. They said Verse was going to catch him. I just want to say Verse was never going to catch Barkley running down the side. I think he even said it himself that he was like, yeah, I could have caught him. No, you couldn't have. It wasn't even going to be close. Anyway, I digress because they'd be, I like Verse.
He's been humbled. He voted the Eagles this past offseason as the hardest fan group to play against. So Verse was humbled. Yeah, and I respect Verse. I respect the shit out of Verse, the player. He's a stud.
Yeah. No, I do. But again, talking running backs, looking at first the Eagles running back room, breaking that down, and then talking. Did he take this one to the house? He had to have. No, he got caught.
No, not that one.
Yeah, I was about to say, damn, I don't remember like a 90-yard run. But breaking down the Eagles running back room and then ranking them against other running back rooms in the NFL. This was silly. It was like 7 people around them. And then getting maybe some little receivers if we have some time, as well, breaking down the receiver room too for the Philadelphia Eagles. But I mean, it's just highlight after highlight after highlight, and I love it. All right. So we're talking running back room for the Philadelphia Eagles. Be kind of using PFF for now, just to show the room. We already know who's the lead dog, right? Obviously, the man you just saw just now with Saquon Barkley. But the question is, what's behind Barkley, right? What's behind Barkley if Barkley was to ever get hurt? Let's see here. Did that come up or no? It was still the other screen, right?
I don't see anything yet.
Still going. Let's bring it back up again. It was the video that was showing, I think. There we go. I'll zoom in just a tad. All right. So we got some familiar names on here on this roster, and then we got some new names, some undrafted free agents, and some guys we just, we should talk about. All right, so let's start, go top to bottom, right? We obviously know top dog again, Saquon Barkley. If you want to get into the rankings that PFF does, be my guest of where they have Barkley's ranking from run blocking, running, et cetera, et cetera. It's it's all
Best running back
subjective
in the NFL last year, I think, without question.
for sure.
Any of these rankings cannot fathom what he did for the team that won the Super Bowl. I think undoubtedly he is the best running back in the NFL going into next season. I think really, Nate, the questions begin with what's behind Barkley, and I think you alluded
Right.
to it a couple of minutes ago. Is you said what happens if he gets hurt, and that's where things get a little shaky. So I want to preface this with what do the Eagles look for as far as behind their number one back? So this team has not employed a number one back system kind of since the 2022 season. I know a lot of people don't want to compare Miles Sanders and Saquon Barkley to each other, but 2022, they kind of started this under the Sirianni era, started this not necessarily run first, but run centric offense. And Miles Sanders' season in 2022 cannot be discredited. Saquon took it to an entire another level, as he should have, because he is an entire another level of player compared to Miles Sanders last season. I think what needs to be talked about, Nate, and this is what I wanted to address earlier, was
Yeah.
they have a certain expectation for RB2. And now that Saquon is the number one, Kenneth Gainwell filled a role that was very essential. It was a third down running back, a very quality pass blocker, and it was and sometimes a grindage breather, for Barkley. So if Barkley was grinding a bunch of carries, whatever, let's say they're stopped on, a second and one, a third and one, maybe you put in Gainwell outside of Hurts, whatever it is. Gainwell was that guy. They drafted Shipley in the 4th round last year to automatically assume this role that Gainwell had. And Shipley is that guy. And I think that Shipley did well on kick returns last year. I think he played very well on special teams, and he kind of earned his right, almost the way that elite college teams do. I've kind of discussed this with you before, Nate, is that the Eagles have adopted almost of a college-style formality when it comes to positions and, just who starts where. And Shipley had to earn his role, and I thought he did a really good job of stepping over the role that he had last year, and he played well. He dealt with a concussion towards the end of the season, around the playoffs, that kind of just inhibited him a little bit. But I thought Shipley did really well, and I thought he carried the Gainwell role. I don't think last year he did it, obviously with Gainwell there, but I think that he showed signs that he could uphold the Gainwell role and be the guy that can kind of be the pass blocking.
Yeah, I was going to
you know what I mean? Like
I was going to add that
role.
On the tail end of what you were saying was, I think the key thing that you said about, what do they look for is in a backup running back. And I think, and it's always been from Andy's kind of philosophy, our running backs have to be able to block.
Yes.
Right. They have to be able to block. And you've noticed that even if I don't think Miles was the best blocker, but he was a willing blocker. And I think
that's a great way to put it. He was very willing.
He was willing, right?
He might have not made the hit, or he might have not disrupted the rusher on his pursuit to the quarterback. But God, if he didn't throw his body into the play,
he stuck his nose in there. Kind of, he wasn't Deuce, right? Because Deuce was just built different, right? But
different era of running back for him.
True. But going back to those times, those early Andy times, those were the running backs he wanted. He wanted running backs he wanted running backs who could pass pro block first, but he also wanted a willing blocker. And if you could do that, then we could work with your technique.
And I think it's funny because a lot of people are forgetting what happened to a certain somebody a year before last. And they're just assuming that the Eagles had running back figured out last year because Saquon worked correctly. And I want to point out the fact that Rashad Penny in 2023 was just an absolute disaster. I mean, we can go back on. I mean, I don't know if a lot of people know that Rashad Penny even played. He did, and was
He
rostered
played a
through the
little bit.
entire season.
Yeah.
Um,
It was always a question mark why he didn't get the rock more.
it was. We can get into that's a whole other episode. Practice effort. I mean, it was a whole.
I never fully
thing.
understood that.
It was a willingness to want. I don't know if that makes sense to those, but it was just a willingness to want to be great, and that was not there for him. Now that wasn't all it was. I don't know what he was going through personally and all that. And, you know what? Shout out Rashad Penny. He was a stud coming out of SDSU. But what we're full circling is that the Eagles, when they went all in on Saquon, they reconstructed their plan as to what they wanted. But it's obvious what they want now. The Gainwell role is still very essential to this team, and Shipley essentially just bumps up into that role. Well, we got by last year with Gainwell and Shipley, who are essentially very similar players. I mean, they're good. They're good pass blockers. Gainwell more on the great side of pass blocking, but they're third down, somewhat grindage backs. They're good on out routes and stuff. They're a safety valve kind of running back, which is a perfect complement to a player like Barkley.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, would you agree with that sentiment? I mean, they typically fit that, even though the Eagles did not have Barkley a couple years ago. That role has kind of been the guy that they've wanted, and Andy's kind of always wanted a little guy like that. I mean, Doug wanted a little guy that has this.
Yeah, I think they're all kind of. I mean, I think the original is Sproles, which he finally got him into an Eagles uniform. But they're all kind of like that mode.
I got fast three things for it.
Go ahead.
I've got dirty work. I've got they have the ability to pass block, and they have somewhat of a return prowess. And I think that those three factors, which are not incumbent in all running backs of that size or stature, they tend to seek out the dudes who can run a little bit faster or run a little bit harder, but then try a little bit extra for that role. So,
yeah, I mean, to me, Sproles is a Hall of Famer to me. So I think,
well, yeah, Sproles is an anomaly and all that.
Yeah, he's a unicorn.
Yeah.
And I think, but
these are more of the Corey Clements. This is more of a, Wendell.
But he's part of that too. Like these guys, like some of them are fast, but the one thing that always stood about Sproles was those feet, and all these guys have quick feet. I mean, you can go back all the way back. I don't know about Deuce, like you said, Deuce was a different era, but
Deuce Westbrook era was different because that was more of the smash and dash kind of.
That was right. But Westbrook was just as quick as he was fast.
Westbrook was years ahead of his time for usage. And the knees gave out. Yeah. LaShawn was a good example of everything they could have wanted in somebody like Barkley, and now they almost have that secondary instance of a player like that.
But I mean, Shady would say the same thing. Like fastest feet he'd ever seen, and he studied was Sproles.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just fast feet. And I think Shipley is more of that Westbrook type. It's not as stocky as Westbrook.
Shipley was a Red Star player.
Yeah. Yeah, you talked to me about Red Star before.
And that's a guy that the Eagles singled out as a player that may not be the fastest, the biggest, or the strongest, but he exemplifies everything it means to be a Philadelphia Eagle. And Will Shipley was that guy last year. So that's huge for them. I mean, I think that the roles that they carve out there are different because of what they have found in Barkley. So now, you have a Shipley who can assume a role and can step up in that role, and that's fine. But
Barkley fits the mold too.
We do, but we circle back to the question number one is,
but he's
what would happen if he missed a game?
So to me, and again, we're kind of looking past what's behind Barkley. I think it's Shipley.
And from my understanding of the Eagles and from the way I understand that they work, that's not the way they think. Dylan would be that guy. But Dylan,
I think it's question marks if Dylan makes the team.
of course, and I think that comes down to the fact that Dylan signed a I'll round it up, $3-4 million contract, but only 167,000 of that is fully guaranteed. So AJ Dillon is making $167,000 for this offseason, no matter what he does, effort, whatever it may be in the offseason. I mean, I know he was there early in the spring, and I from what I understand, he's all about the team program and he's doing what he's supposed to do. But
What's he? What was the injury he's coming off? Was it Achilles or was it
neck
quad?
stinger.
Next.
No,
neck.
this is very weird.
That's right. That is right. It is the neck. I remember that.
It's a neck injury. So
Yeah.
there's really no timetable. It's all about the feel of the player. And Eagles fans might remember Jordan Howard of a few years ago was basically retired because of this injury.
Yeah.
And it just, these power backs that they lower the head and, go into contact, they have the ability to go into these injuries. And these injuries this is not something that I can speak on. This is one of those things that it's up to the player. How do they feel?
Well,
who was back in spring? I mean, there's no contact, man. There's no nothing. I mean, there's no telling of what he's going through. You know what I mean?
Who was the running back? I think he was the reason why they got this, or it might have been before him. Was it Richardson? Was his name Richardson? The dude with the braids? I think he was on the Colts.
Alabama, Trent Richardson.
Yeah, Trent Richardson.
Yep.
Remember when he did the Coleman?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But, just like you said, a bruiser type who he lowers his head and he just kind of goes forward.
But I think
Dylan's a throwback.
He is. And but the thing is the Eagles, the way they set their roster up is you have a Barkley and then you have the Shipley/Gainwell role. But then I've deemed it, and this is what I've called it, is the break in case of emergency bell cow. And they thought that was Rashad Penny a couple years ago. They never had to break in case of emergency, but he clearly wasn't the fucking guy. Right. I mean, he was terrible. I mean, he in practice was terrible. Effort was terrible. I mean, it was a shit show.
Yeah.
You get this guy, Dylan, who so far has shown you everything you want to see in the offseason. But, I mean, Nate, I mean this so seriously. He is a break in case of emergency bell cow.
No, he is. I mean, we've seen that him in his career in Green Bay.
This guy,
yeah,
is if 2-6 goes down.
Yeah, we've seen that in his career in Green Bay. Who's the guy?
Well, that's fine, but he wasn't coming off. He wasn't coming off of a major neck injury. So
that's true.
It's
a risk.
There's a reason why he signed for 1.3. I'll say 1.45.
Mm-hmm.
And then the fact that $167,000 of that, of 1.34 million, was fully guaranteed.
So what you're saying is that the Eagles have now defined their running back room as specific roles that certain
they have been defined since Sirianni took over as head coach. Barkley just took role number one to an extreme. That's all it is. I mean, they've operated. This is the way coaches work. You know what I mean? They have roles. They have types.
Yeah.
And Barkley, being that he is a great and anomaly player, caused them to change that to a certain degree. But these roles are there, and you have RB1. You have third down / pass blocking. This is your 2-minute back, as they like to call it. Yeah. And then number 3, dude, that's your literally break in case of emergency bell cow. And they gambled with the Gainwell Shipley that would have been enough to get them through last season, which I agree. I think that would have been enough. But now, I mean, Shipley can't carry the ball 25 times a game. His body's not built for it.
I mean, I think
Dylan is.
I mean, I get that. And I think we had this conversation on the back end. If almost kind of going full circle back to your original question, as we look through the list, who is RB2 on this team?
Shipley's RB2, but who is I think the question is not who is RB2, but who fills in if Barkley were to be down?
And I said
Yeah.
this before. I think it's Jalen. I think it's Hurts.
I think that's an ill-informed answer because Jalen Hurts is the focal point of
I
the
think
entire offense.
I think it's Hurts, and let me tell you why I think it's Hurts. I think it's Hurts because of the production from his legs that they would get versus anybody else on this list. Right?
But you're
Like
missing the fact that his legs account for every single other player's production on the entire team because the
I'm
entire
not I'm
offense
not because this is
is
what
ran through the fact that Jalen Hurts' legs are a threat.
what no, it's because of what we've seen since he's been the starter. That nothing's changed. He's been the RB2 per the statistics since he's been the starter.
No, I think he's option number one, and his statistics are just his statistics or QB statistics, and he happens to run the ball well. But I think that
But
the
they do
entire
actual
offense.
running plays for him. It's not like it's just he's running out of
So
like
Saquon
the
gets
pocket.
hurt. Saquon gets hurt, and you would elect to run the ball more.
I'm not saying what I would elect to do. I'm saying what I think they would do. And I do think that you would see a little bit more quarterback power type plays. I think you would. And I think you would see him
don't
hold
think
and
in any
tuck.
sense that the offense with A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, just because you
Bro,
remove
they
Saquon from
did
the
it.
basket
They
doesn't
did it
mean
the
that.
year before the Super Bowl. He still had what, like 600, like 700-800 yards rushing and 12
About
touchdowns.
2023, the year that the entire organization was questioned about whether they were good or not, and blah 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 blah.
Man, let's just pull up the numbers just to make sure that
You're going to pull up Jalen Hurts rushing stats, and I'm telling you, he is the number one point in the offense. The offense is built around Jalen Hurts.
And that's exactly why he would get the nod.
So you take
as
away
being,
Saquon Barkley, and you're going to tell Jalen to run more, even though when you added Saquon Barkley, he threw less.
Bro, I'm just telling you what I would think. Like if Barkley goes down and they have the next game, it would not be surprising if you see Jalen Hurts with more rushes than anybody else.
How many more rushes is more rushes? Because I don't know what you're going to give to the guy.
I think you would. Well, some of them won't be.
You're going to design more opportunities than you already have for your $250,000 man to put himself in harm's way.
Hey man, I'm just letting you know. I'm just letting you know what I think. All right, so now we're getting into like weird stats with this PFF. I'm just looking for ESPN rushing stats. All I'm saying is that I think some of those rushes will be unscripted, right? Because a rush is him taking off, from the pocket. But actual running plays that they would call QB power, ones that he decides to keep on any type of,
I'll tell you what.
RPO options.
I gotta pee. So you work on that right there. You think about how important Jalen Hurts is to the running offense. And
nobody's questioning how. I know how important he is, but we said that before, right? We said that before that Jalen Hurts shouldn't be running the ball, but he is, and he's a threat to run the ball. It just is what it is. I call a spade when I see it, and I think that if 2-6 Barkley goes down, you will see Jalen Hurts running the ball 10 to 15 times. Unless another running back is going off. But, that's just the way I see it. And I'm bringing up his numbers right now. Is that smart to do? They do it with...
So
they do it with Allen.
How many pass attempts did Tanner McKee make when he filled in for, or Kenny Pickett and Tanner McKee make when they filled in for Jalen Hurts?
Oh, I don't know.
Okay. It was over, I believe it was over, I'll say over 25 guaranteed, but I believe it was over 30. So when the
Okay.
offense. Okay, no, you
So
ahead.
here we
You
go.
ahead.
Here we go. Yeah, so here we go. Last year, Super Bowl season, he had 150 carries, 630 yards, and 14 touchdowns. That's with Barkley on the field, right? The year before that, 157 carries, 605 yards, and 15 touchdowns. The year before that, 165 carries, the 22 year when they went to the Super Bowl, 760 yards and 13 touchdowns.
So Saquon Barkley, the greatest running back in the NFL, did not affect Jalen Hurts' rushing stats in any way, shape, or form at all.
It from what the numbers are saying,
it did not at all. Exactly. So you're more proving my point that he is not the number 2 rusher because he was never number 1. So he's not number 3. He's not number 4. He's not number 5. He just is who he is. The offense runs through Jalen.
No, nobody said he was the number 1 person.
He was a year ago in 2023. He was because Miles did not run for that many yards. Now, he might have ran for somewhere around that, but
yeah, who was on 2022? Was that Miles' big year? That was Miles' big year, right? The 22
No, 2022 was Miles Sanders' best year. The year they went to the Super Bowl was Sanders' best year.
Yeah, when he had like 1,700 on purpose.
Yards.
Right?
It was maybe 1,500 all purpose, but it was I believe it was.
It was a good year. It was a good year. It was a good year.
Yeah, it was very good. It was extremely good to be Miles Sanders.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, what are we talking about? He's not even close to being. He was still the number 2 option. My point is, he's the number 2 option. He's been the number 2 option. He was the number 2 option last year.
Number 1 option.
He's the number 2 option the year before that.
And that the entire offense is built around him. If for some reason Barkley couldn't run the ball, then he would still do what he's going to do, but they would attempt to throw the ball more.
Yeah, I think that changes if. Well, yeah, you might be right. They might go back to.
You're going to pay AJ and Devontae in Dallas all that money, and then Saquon gets hurt, and you're going to tell them, "Nah, boys, Jalen's got this."
I mean, what they did it the year before, right? Like they started off the year throwing the ball until they figured out, run the ball.
I told you this from day one. That's all they want to do is throw the fucking football. Don't think they're pleased because they won a Super Bowl running the ball. They're not going to tell you they're a running football team. They never will.
Oh, of course not. I'm not. I completely agree with you. All I'm saying is if Saquon goes down, even though it's not penciled in RB2,
quarterback as your first rushing option on a team is embarrassing, shallowed, and not the way NFL teams think.
If James Cook goes down, who's the number 1 running option for the Bills?
His name's Ty Johnson and Ray Davis. They would both lock in.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
James Cook's not even worried about showing up right now. So
if Henry goes down, who's the number 1 option as a running threat?
Dude, you're talking about a guy that touches the ball every fucking play versus someone who has to hand the ball off to him. Because their dynamic makes them more of a player. It does not make them less of a quarterback.
I'm not taking anything away from him as being a quarterback. I'm just saying
he's
what
not
the skill set he has.
Rushing option.
If James Conner goes down.
If you take away AJ Brown, you take away Devontae Smith. We now have Jahan Dotson, Johnny Wilson, and Anaya Smith lining up at wide receiver. Saquon Barkley's gone. You have Jalen Hurts, Will Shipley. What are you going to do? Run the ball with Jalen Hurts the whole game. You're not going to win a lot of football games. Hey, but there's some teams in the NFL that are set up where they have a guy like Jalen Hurts. They have all these nobodies around them, and they say that they're not going to tell you he's their number 1 rushing attack. That's not how the game is played. He's a quarterback. It's a modern quarterback. He's going to run the football.
What do you mean it's not how the game is played? It's definitely how the game some of these teams play because of the skill set.
It's the way the game is played. Excuse me. It's not the way the game is coached. I do not coach my team or build my team around a quarterback who I use his rushing ability as a secondary, savior to poor running back play. That has nothing to do. You're trying to tell me that Jalen Hurts is the second best running option on the Philadelphia Eagles.
Absolutely.
Cool. you could basically say he's the number one rushing option on the Eagles because the entire offense doesn't fucking function without him being there and having a running threat. Now, you could take away Jalen Hurts and you put Tanner McKee there and they throw the ball 40, 45 times because they have A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, Jahan Dotson. I mean, if you took away
I understand what you're saying, but we're missing the point of the skill set of the player. There's certain tiers of players that have these certain skill sets. The Jacksons, the Allens, the Hurts. They fit that mode. Even Mahomes somewhat a little bit is, but Mahomes is more obviously of a bigger arm thrower in the way they run that offense. But what I'm saying is that you're not going to limit and just throw the ball with Jalen Hurts 40 times a game like you would Tanner McKee. Tanner McKee. You're going to run the ball with him, and you're going to hit double-digit rushes with him if Saquon is not there.
And my argument is he's going to run the football, whether it's Saquon Barkley or Nate Moss in the backfield. It does not matter. He's going to go off and do what he does because he's done that since his rookie year, since he was 12 years old. But that does not make him a factor in the running back room.
Yeah, I don't agree with that at all.
Lamar Jackson was Lamar Jackson, and then he got Derrick Henry. Jalen Hurts was Jalen Hurts, and then he got Saquon Barkley. The running back can add to the quarterback as a running quarterback and elevate them to the next level. It takes Jaden Daniels gets a top-tier NFL running back, and you better watch the fuck out. He might be the best quarterback in the NFL if we're going to talk about it like that. But Lamar and Derrick were elite. Jalen and Saquon are elite, but they are elite in their own sense. But we could both agree that Lamar, Derrick, and Saquon are better runners than Jalen. It's not even fucking close.
Yeah, for sure.
Where's Lamar's running quarterback? Here. Where's Jalen's running quarterback? Here. That doesn't take away from Jalen's greatness as a runner. No, it doesn't. But Jalen has more yards than Lamar. What does that mean? Oh, no, it's not. Who would I take running against free defenders? I take Lamar every day of the week. But Jalen versus Lamar, what I'm saying is I'm not comparing my quarterback room to my running back room because they work in sequence. They don't work parallel. There's no perpendicular, there's nothing coming perpendicular between the running back room and the quarterback room. That's not the way. This isn't college, man. I'm not running the fucking wing T. I'm not. This isn't fucking Navy. This ain't fucking old Georgia Tech. I'm running a modern NFL
wing
offense.
T. Brought out the wing T on me.
My quarterback's legs have nothing to do with my running back. Every single player on my team is elevated by my quarterback's ability to extend the play. And that's, flat out simple.
Yeah, I disagree because in this sense.
Well, I'll tell you what. When I'm going to just say if. Fuck you, Eagles fans. I'm the most diehard person you know. When Barkley gets hurt, you're going to be fucked because you don't have a fucking backup plan. Dylan's a fucking bum who does not have what it takes for this neck injury. We'll see. But they don't have anything close to what Barkley is. And to think that Jalen Hurts can even supplement Barkley being gone from the game, you're fucking stupid. Fucking stupid, dude. There's no way that they could succeed without Barkley. Now you don't have Gainwell at all, too. I mean, come on, man.
I agree with that. I don't think that he's going to replace a Barkley-like production, especially off the year Barkley just had.
They don't have a player that can sniff Barkley.
No. I mean, not any team in 31 other teams don't have that.
The Houston Texans are rostering Nick Chubb and Dameon Pierce, who a lot of people would, go against Dameon Pierce, but there are teams in the NFL with a much, much better backup plan or break in case of emergency bell cow plan than the Eagles. That was my point.
Well, yeah, that's I love that. I love that segue because we can go back and forth all day about Bart. Who has the closest? Who has the closest collection of runners? If we would rank them, including the quarterback.
I don't know. I focus on the Eagles. I don't know. I mean, I can't tell you that at all. I don't know, especially including the quarterback because I don't include the quarterback. But as far as including running backs rooms go, I mean, deep running backs rooms. The Texans have a deep room, but that's just based off names. But I mean,
Let
as
me
of
go to the
right now, if
Texans.
AJ Dillon does not work out, the Eagles do not have an answer. If something were to happen to Barkley.
That's fair. That's fair enough. I don't know that the Texans running back room, but let me go to. I was thinking obviously, Baltimore, right, with Lamar, Derek, Justin Hill. I think is still there as well. I think they had another guy there. It was kind of smaller. I think his name was it Mitchell, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, Keaton Mitchell from
Then,
East Carolina.
yeah, and then
He's
you
not
got
developed.
you
That's
know,
more of a specialty return back.
I,
So.
I I think Gibbs is the next thing as a running back. So
Well, I
I
mean,
have
Bijan Robinson is the most talented running back in the NFL. So the Falcons would be a good room to look at.
yeah, right. Yeah, the Falcons, right? The Falcons, and they got was it
Alligator
Tyler?
as well.
Yeah, Tyler behind him,
Yeah.
right? And then you have Detroit, right? The 2-1-2 punch. Even though I think Gibbs is now showed last year with Montgomery being hurt that he can handle, he can handle the full load with that. So you got Detroit in there. You just mentioned, we're looking at Houston right now. A lot of names people know. Obviously Joe Mixon. I think he battled some injuries last year. In and out, Damian Pierce, another good player, and then obviously the walking wonder and Nick Chubb, and we'll see what he even looks like coming in here. Some of these other names, we haven't done any research on them. I'm not sure of these guys on some of the ones that we listed here, but we'll go to Detroit real quick. I think Tampa with Buck Irving there too probably has a decent room. So, do you think the Eagles are uniquely in a bad spot with Barkley? And like you already said, Dylan sucks.
No, I mean, Barkley is the best running back this league has sniffed.
I guess let me rephrase that. If Barkley was to get hurt, knock on wood.
Well, yeah, or they're fucked. That's what I opened it up with. I mean, they're fucked. I mean, I would hope they can make it out of it, but there's not an answer on the roster to give me any reason to believe so, unless you think Montrell Johnson's going to become something that he's not, but that would require rostering him. I mean, we're not talking about that. We're worried about the Lions right now. So, I mean, the Lions have a Cowboys. They don't have anything to worry about. Panthers are a better room to look at than anything else.
Yeah, I don't even know what's on the Cowboys. I know the star is ugly to look at right now.
Cowboys ain't got shit. Cowboys have probably
I haven't
room.
done. Yeah,
that's hands down the most disappointing running back room in the NFL.
I love it. I forgot Miles went there.
Yeah, Javonte Williams. They're a fucking joke.
That's a joke. And was that Deuce Vaughn? Let me see here. Oops. Didn't mean to do that. So, but no, I get your point though. I get what your point of, pretty much looking at, let's go back to where we started here. The Eagles roster in terms of if Saquon Barkley gets hurt, they tried to check the boxes of roles for the running back room. And it's looking as if, they're screwed and this team
Avery
goes
Williams
back.
there. Avery Williams, this is why I don't use PFF, man. Fuck you, Chris Collinsworth. Avery Williams is not a fucking running back. He's listed as a goddamn wide receiver by the Philadelphia Eagles on their official website. So I don't know why you have him there. You got Keelan Robinson just traded for out of the Jaguars. That's a return specialist. Derek Powell out of Central Arkansas. He also a return specialist. Montrell Johnson and Lou Nichols. Lou Nichols, former Packers 7th rounder. What year is that? 2023. Those are the guys kind of vying for that backup running back position. Barkley, Shipley are locks. The rest of it is open for grabs. So you have position number 3 open, which is for a situational bell cow, and that would be A.J. Dillon or Montrell Johnson. Number 4 in the running back room is locked up by fullback Ben Van Sumeren. So as of right now, there's only one position open in that room.
Yeah, I
And
saw.
that
So I didn't
would be-
read it. I saw something they were talking about expanding his role. I don't know what that actually meant. 'Cause
I
he
think
can
it
play
was
both
more of
sides
an
of the ball, can he?
expansion. I think it's more just an expansion in the run game and optionality because he does have some receiver prowess. So Jeffrey Lurie did go on WIP in his first appearance. I don't know how long, and reference that they make the fullback position great again. So they will.
Oh wow.
I assume they're going to be doing some things with that. But you got Barkley, you got Shipley, and then you have a battle between AJ Dillon, Lou Nichols, and Montrell Johnson for that third spot, which is, like I said, the break in case of emergency bell cow. The fourth position will be held by fullback Ben Van Sumeren.
So I was about to ask that. If I'm not remembering, they do keep 4, right? Do they keep 4?
They should keep 4 this cycle, but it will be 3 running backs, 1 fullback. And like I said, you got your one starter, your prime starter in Barkley. Your number 2 is a change of pace / third down back who should have a high pass blocking / pass catching prowess. That's Will Shipley. Your number 3 is your break in case of emergency bell cow. That's AJ Dillon, Montrell Johnson, Lou Nichols, one of those 3. Your number 4 is your fullback. That's Ben Van Sumeren. That's the way they're going to be running with it this year.
And obviously, training camp is what, 2 weeks away, somewhere around.
2 weeks away should be. We're coming up on training camp soon. The big guy to watch right now is Montrell Johnson. If I had to say anything, the UDFA out of Florida. I've gotten a couple notes from him about just kind of having the size and profile to play in the NFL game. It hasn't been anything like, hey, watch out for this guy. He could beat this dude or anything like that. It was more of a, hey, man, Philly got this kid. Let's see what he can do. And I think he's got great competition against Lou Nichols and A.J. Dillon. And A.J. Dillon, who is coming off injury, and then Lou Nichols, who has been on and off the Eagles. So Montrell Johnson, at the size that he's got, I mean, he has that prototypical NFL size that, multi-carry back. Is a UDFA out of Florida. He has that SEC prowess, transferred from, I believe it's Louisiana Lafayette that he transferred from.
Raging Cajuns.
Yeah, the Raging Cajuns. So, yeah, he transferred over to Florida. He had a big, 60, 65-yard run against Oklahoma or something like that. But that's kind of the guy that I would gloss over. That would be the, potential to, kind of burst in the scene. I would more likely lean to this guy getting on the practice squad, and kind of the top 4 being Saquon, Will Shipley, A.J. Dillon, and Ben Van Sumeren, the fullback. But if Dillon runs into any injury issues, I think this guy right here would be our number 1.
I know there was some thoughts about A.J. Dillon not being able, one, like you said, A.J. Dillon kind of sucks. But he's been in this role before.
Yeah, he doesn't.
Where he has been.
That neck injury is the biggest concern.
But I guess my question to you though is, like, I feel like they want AJ Dillon to be this role. Like they want it to be AJ Dillon, but
they want
opening up
they
for
posted him in social media. They want him. They want it for AJ Dillon. They want it for AJ Dillon.
Yeah, right, exactly.
There's a couple guys they pushed over the years that have been, subpar backups. I mean, there's, for one, Terrell Edmonds was a good one. And due to the roster crunching, they pushed Terrell Edmonds through social media heavily, blah, 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 blah. Talk about that another day. But they want him to win this job really bad.
Yeah. That's what my thought.
If he doesn't,
that's what I'm thinking. If he doesn't,
well, I mean, let's say he doesn't, and let's say Montrell doesn't step up, then it's nobody in the room. Let's say Lou Nichols and Montrell Johnson, they falter, right? Well, then I'm leaning directly to it's a free agent acquisition or a trade.
Yeah,
that's the way they would move.
Yeah,
that's the way they would move. Because what I'm trying to hammer down in this podcast, Nate, is they're not deep enough at running back, but this is one of those positions where they can't quite be deep enough. Does that make sense? They have to take flyers here, they can't just go sign a guy that's guaranteed to be the backup to Barkley, because who the fuck wants to be the backup to Barkley?
That's true. You got to find somebody who's willing to accept that
You
role.
have to find somebody that's willing to just sit there and, just arms crossed and have a good time and throw their hands up when touchdown. I mean, it's
Yeah.
hard to find
yeah.
this
No, you
backup
do.
off the street.
And the funny thing you say that because a lot of the running backs that are names that people are not familiar with, like you said, they have special team experience.
Well, and that's where Keelan Robinson, he's in the return battle. Shunderick Powell out of Central Arkansas, he's in the return battle. Avery Williams, he's a receiver. We can't even discuss him in this position. The Eagles have him formally listed as a wide receiver, so he will be in the wide receiver show. I have a lot to say on Avery Williams, so I'm stoked to talk about it, but I'm not going to, just dwell on that in this show. But Shunderick Powell's fun. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's very undersized. I think he's like 5'7". Great returner from Central Arkansas. I could see him in the practice squad developmental role. That's kind of where he's at, along with Keelan Robinson. I don't really see as more of a developmental player. I think they're kind of trying to bring him into the return competition and see how that goes. But he is a returner more than he is a running back, if that makes sense. So, like, you got guys that are in the running back fight.
I looked him up.
Special teams.
Yeah, Robinson has he's a decent pedigree. I think he went Bama, then transferred to Texas. He sat out the
Texas,
COVID year.
Well, it was something. Yeah, something.
I think it was
Bama.
he was
something Bama.
He was
Texas,
Bama, sat
like
out.
But he had he has a really good return prowess. He was very. The Jaguars were weird to release him at the time, and it needs to be noted that the Eagles did claim him off waivers during this time of the year. So he was a non-vested veteran, which is we need to put out a thesaurus for this shit. But he was a non-vested veteran, so he was subject to waivers, in which case the Eagles had the 32nd claim in the NFL. So they hoped that 31 teams wouldn't claim him, in which case they rewarded the player and were forced to make a roster move to make room for him. But I'm not concerned with the running back position at all, man. I'm almost certain on this is the way that they're doing things. You know what I mean? Like, I almost fully understand that this is the way they're going to go about it. And if anybody thinks that they're going to make a splashy move here, or if a guy gets cut there, but it's not happening. I mean, they like what they have, and they have created enough competition with the amount of bodies that they have brought into camp.
All right, so let me ask you this before we shut it down on the running back position. Barkley, Shipley, right?
Yeah.
Say Dylan doesn't work out. I'm looking at on the running back availability on free agents.
Yeah.
From your GM position, looking at right on the roster, Jamal Williams, Gus Edwards. I'm trying to think who else. Nobody really fits our mode. Cincinnati, he's more of a scat back though.
You brought you're breaking up. Was it Jamal Williams' name you brought up?
Between Jamal. Yeah, I think it's really.
Yeah.
I'm looking like you're talking about filling that role, that bell cow role.
Yeah, if we were to have to fill that void,
Jamal Williams or Gus Edwards. Yeah, Jamal Williams or Gus Edwards is the ones that I see that are out there from a free agent standpoint.
I'd have to double check something, but I believe they have a connection to Jamal via agencies. But those two are a toss-up. I would elect that they would be more interested in a Jamal Williams than a Gus Edwards. If I had to pick one, they would lean more towards Jamal.
And it's funny enough, Jamal at this stage of his career kind of seems AJ Dillon-ish, right? His style of play and running can pass
100%.
pass
Just no,
block, can catch the ball.
just zero neck injuries. That's the.
Yeah. I mean, he's not gonna give you no top end speed, but he's a
No,
football
no,
player though.
no. And remember, I reference this as break in case of emergency bell cow. So,
And I think Jamal could be that.
and that's the role that I want this to be. I mean, I am not just. You can stamp this role on the team. Break in case of emergency bell cow.
Yeah.
That is what the role that they are looking to have and define. And right now, until AJ Dillon proves that he is not that guy health wise, it has nothing to do with talent. It has nothing to do with play. It has nothing to do with performance. It's all about health. I mean, this dude he showed up for the spring stuff. I mean, he's done everything he should have done. So I don't know, man. I think it's gonna be real fun to keep up with the summer and just kind of see where we see this running back position, kind of fold itself out.
Yeah, no, I agree. You were the one who really brought the running back thought process up of how to look at it, and I actually didn't look at it like that. Obviously, that's why you're the GM and I'm the player. I'm just looking at who's going to run the back, next, and who's going to give me statistics, and that's where I got Jalen Hurts.
Well, of course, but it's a role based system, but it all goes to being a part of the 90-man roster, and every man has to have a piece of this team, and everybody has to bring something to the table. And
no, I think that's really interesting, and I think it's probably when you think about it, and as we continue to go through the roster here, and if you guys want to hear more of our roster breakdown, make sure you hit the like, subscribe, follow, all that good stuff. I think you could argue, is this the weakest position on the team?
I was trying to say something, Nate. I was trying to tell you.
I think you could argue that the running back, as great as Saquon is, the running back position as a whole.
And the word that we refer to it is the delta here. The delta here is rough.
Yeah,
I mean, this is rough.
I can get on board with that. I can get on board with that.
You take Saquon, pull him out of the equation. All of a sudden, it's shit.
Rough. It's rough. But
tough. You got to find the right guys that are willing to be, in that role of just in case, and that's why I refer to it as break in case of emergency bell cow. And I think that position right now is a big question for the Eagles.
Yeah. No, I think it is too as well. I agree, man. Good stuff. Way to bring a gem out of a gem that you're looking at, right? You're looking at a princess cut diamond, and it's got that little bit of cloudiness in there. Just a little bit of that cloudiness.
We're here to find, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's the stuff that we're
found the weed
conversation. I mean,
found the weed. Found the weed in the rose garden, man.
I'm telling you. I'm telling you. And hey, next week, wide receiver, we have something that to this date, I have confirmation from beat writers. I have confirmation from NFL sources. Like, it's not a lot. It's nothing crazy, but it is a tidbit about the NFL and especially the receiver room for the Eagles that next week I think we're going to have some fun on.
All right. Sounds good. So you guys heard that from the GM himself. Some surprising news coming next week about the receiver room.
Intriguing. Some intriguing news. Intriguing news.
This is Moss Money. That's Ernie B. This is Victory Mondays. We will see you guys next Monday. We're doing receivers, man. See you guys later.